All right, touching. It's on. I can hear myself in the headphones. Perfecto. Welcome back to, I guess, episode 2. Today is the 2nd of January, 2023. Here in Melbourne, Reservoir specifically, we're looking at 25 degrees and thunderstorms all day. I'm not a weather guy, a weatherman, but this is going to sound funny. So, yeah, we're going to have a top of 32. And then a cool change coming through the next couple of days, and I'm fucking stoked about it. This heat is no joke, dude. What the hell? I was talking about it, I think, yesterday as well. It's just bullshit. We missed out on a fucking spring, so there was no buffer time to, like, prepare yourself for the heat. And so if you're just climatized to cold weather, and then it just turns on to fucking 35, dude. Whew. But, anyway, I hope everybody had a good first day of the year. I think I worked yesterday, so I saw a lot of people, and the general consensus was it's just another day. But I don't know, I disagree. I was driving to work, and I felt like the tides of change were coming. I felt like this is going to be a good year. And I don't know if that's because I sat down yesterday and I ticked one day off this 365-day audio journal, or if it was because I'm just actively thinking about different things I want to do this year, or it's because, I don't know what it is, but I just felt like, I don't know, we said goodbye to the life that was lived in 2022, at least I did, and I'm very welcoming of the life I want to live, and I'm going to try and live here in 2023. I wanted to talk about this weird thing. I guess this morning, this project is a little daunting, right? I procrastinated getting on today. This morning, I was thinking, I could do it tonight. Right now it's 7:58 a.m. So I've got a couple of hours before work, and I was just thinking, I could do it tonight, and I could do it later, and I don't know what to talk about, and it's a challenge sitting down for a minimum of 10 minutes to talk to myself, essentially. I've got no one else is here responding. There's no other, there's no prompts that I've got. I'm just sitting here looking at a fucking desk, a phone that's off, there's nothing going on. So I think the challenge with that and with this is, and I spoke about yesterday, it's meant to be a vulnerability thing. It's meant to allow me to be vulnerable, but I have this strange fear that I'm going to say the wrong thing. And I can't imagine that matters at all if no one's going to hear it. But what if somebody does? And if somebody does hear it and I say the wrong thing, what are they going to think? And how is that going to affect, I guess, my future? For example, let's say I uploaded every one of these podcasts onto the internet and people heard about it and they knew about who I was, and then they, you know what I mean? And then me, a nobody, and his opinion becomes like a talk and becomes like a point of topic. And then, I don't know, I guess it's just this fear that, I'm sitting here talking to a microphone. Obviously, I'm going to have my own thoughts on things that aren't influenced or could be influenced negatively or the wrong way, or, I might not be having the full thought. And I just hate the idea that there's an audience out there who might get offended, who might, where redemption might not be on the cards, and I don't know how to describe it a bit more than that, but it's it is a general fear I have of that vulnerability. There's this weird stigma behind being a man, right? Being I guess male in general, but being a man in today's society, you're supposed to look after your own, and you're supposed to, have a certain sort of confidence and a certain sort of swagger, and you got to stand up for certain things or believe in certain things. Everybody's different and individual, but the definition of a man, at least what is socially accepted, is I guess like a masculine energy, right? And then obviously we've got toxic masculinity, where people use their masculinity to make other people's versions of masculinity seem small, or, you know, and they're toxic about it. But I don't know that many people ever mention the masculine side of vulnerability, the masculine side of putting yourself in the spotlight, or saying things that are against the grain, or, you know, I guess it's always been a thought that I've had, and it's always been something that I've kept in my mind, especially since I was probably, I don't know, early teens, maybe 14, 15. Do you really like the shit you say you like? Or do you just like it because you want other people to think that you're cool? You know, and I think back on all the times that I said I like shit that I didn't really like, just so that I could hang out with people that I didn't really care for, that I haven't thought about now in years. Because at the time, you know, I guess the social aspect of it, especially in a high school setting, I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be seen as, you know, easygoing and non-confrontational and friendly, and, you know, but that's not who I am. That's not what I am about, you know. I like to question things, and I like to think things, and I like to, I guess, have that freedom to be able to change and to be able to be, you know, every day I'm trying to work towards, you know, building myself into a better person. And that's a challenge, you know. I think we need to talk about how challenging it is to be a good person, or to be a better person. You know, it's challenging to accept that you've done shitty things. It's challenging to accept that you've said shitty things, and even then on top of that, it's challenging to admit that you even thought those shitty things before you did them. You know, it's challenging to turn around and to change behavioral patterns, and to even recognize that what you're doing is impacting other people, or even if it's not impacting other people, negatively impacting yourself. You know, I guess it comes back to obviously self-awareness, and that's a tough one, because it's a sore spot for people. You know, it's a really hard one, and it's hard to explain that as well to someone who thinks that they are self-aware but haven't been. I guess the biggest point of argument or contention there would be like parents. You know, I'm sure anyone listening to this who has had some conflict with their parents, or some sort of disagreements or anything, would agree that it's really tough when you have parents who take longer, or are completely unwilling to recognize the patterns of their thought and the patterns of their behavior. And that's why we get stuck with this, you know, you can't change it. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, you know. I don't think that actually references dogs. I think it just means that, you know, people get so stuck in their ways, and they shelter themselves from whatever else outside of that. And it just becomes this point of conversation where, you know, as the new generations come through and they're pushing the boundaries, and not really in any new ways than we've seen before, you know, like, you see the older generation start to get a bit uncomfortable, because it's not the way things were done. And the way things were done when they were getting raised was they were getting beaten up with fucking wooden sticks inside the house, and, you know, dad was never home, and when he was home, he wasn't showing any fucking sort of love or anything like that. Maybe I'm biased. Maybe that's just the history my parents have. I know I've spoken to people before who have similar parents who grew up in the same generation. They've got similar situations, obviously, and thought processes, but it's always refreshing when you see those progressive people from the older generations who, you know, learn that the way they're thinking and the things they're saying might not even be their own thoughts, and they're just doing, you know, they're just continuing on bad old habits or toxic old habits. And I guess that comes full circle back to toxic masculinity. Maybe it's already a thing. Maybe I'm coining a new term, but what about like toxic intergenerationalism, where the old traits of people who are, 20 years your senior, who have the influence and the power over you, or whatever, the control, whatever it could be, whether they're a parent or a guardian, or whether it's in the workplace or whatever. I think that we need to have a real discussion about how that there's so many elements of, toxicness or toxicity, I guess, that comes from generation to generation. And I'm not saying all are bad. That'd be like saying that fucking all Muslims are bad. I know that's not the case, obviously. A small fringe group make it really bad for the rest of the thing. Same as Christianity, I mean, there are fucking pedophiles in the church, but it doesn't make every Christian you meet a pedophile, But there has to be some element of older people not recognizing patterns of behavior or thought and passing them down to the new generations, who are now conflicted between, well, I want to believe this, but my dad says this, and I don't know who to trust, and I don't know who to believe. And that's a daunting thing, But I think everybody hits an age where you realize that your parents don't know as much as they maybe once made you believe. And that once you're an adult and you're trying to figure out life yourself, you can look back on the mistakes of the past, of the older generation, or the ways they did things, and you can be like, well, hang on a sec, that's not right. That's we need to make that different, and we need to be better. And I guess it just comes full circle to what I was saying before about being better people. I think that if everybody really took the advice of just trying to be a better person than the person they were yesterday, even if it just means you smiled at someone that you wouldn't have smiled at the day before, I think that we just need to have that conversation. And then the other side of that, the general fear, obviously, my fear of starting this podcast and doing this daily audio journal is the same as the fear of, it all stems from that fear of, like, I'm going to say shit that's not going to please the generation that's coming up now. I'm not going to say anything that's going to even please my generation or the generation before me, right? At any given time, I'm going to be offending someone, and it's just, we need to have a conversation about why that is. Why, over generations, have we all got such different opinions and such different thought patterns? You know what I mean? Yet we all seem to agree that murder is bad, rape is bad. You know what I mean? Puppies and kittens are good. We all have as humans, we all have this inclination and this attachment and we get drawn to people who are like-minded, and more often than not, people that you even disagree with would share at least 50% of the same opinions as you. Just somewhere, somehow, they've either missed, or they've been guided, or they've been indoctrinated or enlightened to a different way of thinking that you don't have, and that becomes a point of resistance, or I want to use the word irreverence, but I don't know if that's the right word. Irreverence. Sorry, I'm just Googling it. A lack of respect for people's things. Yeah, there you go. A lack of respect for people or things that are generally taken seriously. Yeah, similar to disrespect. So there becomes this issue, right? Like, you believe one thing, and therefore, because you believe it and you were told to believe that, or you watched other people believe it and that's the way they live their life, whether it's a parent or a guardian or someone you respect. It could be, fucking a sports star. It could be a pop star. It doesn't matter. And you decide that you want to live your life that way. And it is a decision, right? You can't just go through life not thinking about how you want to live your life, because that causes all sorts of stress and issues. And as soon as you start to think about how you want to live your life, you have to then choose what you believe in and where your values lie and what your morals are. And this is where what I was talking about before, the toxic intergenerationalism, I guess, is what I'm gonna dub it. Maybe I'll look it up and I'll come back tomorrow with a different term for it. But, I did this because my grandparents did this, or even I'm not gonna do this for you because I used to have to ride a horse to catch the train to get to school. times are different, sweetheart. Times are fucking different. And I think that if you don't get with the program, you're going to set your kids up, or, you're going to set the generation after you up for failure, because it's not going to be the same as it was when you were growing up, and it's never going to be the same. And how can you, and I guess this is where the toxicity comes in, how can you have such a tough time growing up that you're going to subject the people you love to living a tough life just because it's unfair that you had one and they don't get one? Is that not the whole point of setting yourself up for success? I mean, children aren't asked to be born, you choose to have them. And so you're just going to take these kids, have these kids, and then take these kids and recognize that, these little devices and all the things they get to do and all the cool shit that they have now that you didn't have when you were growing up, that's like, there's a point of contention there for you. And so, I don't know. Maybe I'm just having a bit of a rant. I felt like a rant this morning. This fucking heat is no joke, and I guess this heat is getting me heated. I just see a lot of issues coming from people thinking that they're thinking individually and for themselves, but having a strong connection to family. And there's no problem with that. There's not a problem with that at all. But I find that my relationship with my family is, for better or worse, accurate, because I respect and love each of the people in my family for who they are, whether I agree with them or not. And I don't try and change them, and I don't try and make them who I am. And I don't, the love is unconditional. There's no condition behind it. You don't have to be a certain person for me to love you. You do have to be a certain person for me to respect you. You do have to be a certain person for me to want to hang around you and continue to have me in your life, But I'll never just have the excuse, that they are who they are. That's just how it's going to go. Because I think that unless you are willing to have those conversations where, the things that you're thinking and the things that they're thinking don't line up, and there's a point of conflict there, Anyway, you probably don't know. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm saying. This started with me having no thoughts before it, and I sat down and I just ranted for 17 and a half minutes. So I'm going to tie it up there. It's actually not as hard to sit down for 10 minutes and talk as I thought it was going to be. I guess if this does make it anywhere, I guess the call to action would be comment on this. Think about it. Talk to me. Tell me what you think. I don't know. I just have this. I think the conversation needs to be started, and less about all these phobias, homophobia, transphobia, fucking what's it called when you don't like other races? Whatever that is. I mean, it's racism, obviously. That's fucking silly, but there's another words like xenophobia or something. All these different things. I think we also need to talk about toxic intergenerationalism, where the toxic thought processes and the damage that was done to the generation before us gets passed down. And if it's not talked about, it'll get passed down again and continue to do so until such time as we have, I don't know. I actually don't even know what the future looks like. If that's the case. But anyway, Monday, January 2nd, it's 8:14 a.m. We're going to have another fucking hot day and then a couple cool days, so I'm pretty stoked at that. Live your best life, Think about it. What I just said, think about who you are and how much of who you are has come from who you know and who raised you, and how much of it's nature and nurture. Did you learn your own lessons, or have you learned from other people? There's no shame in learning lessons from other people's mistakes, but there is shame, I guess, in never thinking for yourself and always taking someone else's word or sticking into some sort of group just because you have this fear that if you thought independently, you might just discover something that you don't agree with, and then you have to do something about it. See you.